All right, guys, we're live. Welcome back to another episode of the Before the Trainwreck series. I'm joined tonight again with Dr. Sean T. Smith and Conk. Today's topic, cutting ties with mommy, cutting the umbilical cord. If you're new to the show, Before the Trainwreck is something that Sean and I dreamed up just over a year ago. Trying to get guys before they make a train wreck out of life, before they go and have to get ground through the meat grinder or the divorce machine or something like that. So
yeah, and changing things with mommy is a big piece of that recipe.
This is one that I'm probably going to have to sit back and listen a lot more on because you guys have, I mean, this is more your wheelhouse. Like Conk, you're a counselor, and Dr. Sean, you're the doc. So where do you want to open this one up, Conk?
Yeah, I just want to say, even though it is a different topic, it's kind of a part two of last time I was on about rites of passage.
Mm-hmm.
When we talked about rites of passage, we were talking about, the boys separating from the old group. There was an in-group of women and children, and then there's a separate group of men, right? And I was talking about that transition piece where you're able to cut off from that, right? But a lot of the rites of passage talk is, old-timey, it's, the rites of passage, you see it in tribes or older cultures that keep the tradition. And, and that's one of the big points of modern times now is we don't have that, right? We don't have like, okay, you do this and you're done. We don't have bar mitzvahs. We don't have hunting parties, or any other types of the people had that. Mm-hmm. So for the modern era, it's really more of an individualistic concept instead of like the collective group concept where everybody does it together.
Is there a rise of mama's boys these days, you think?
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's because in modern times, we don't have that set path, do A, B, and C, do steps 1, 2, and 3, and then this is your way out. You know what I mean? It's all either not talked about at all, or it's all like weird, nuanced individual experiences, right? There's no actual guiding path on how to do that like we used to have. Mm-hmm. And I think because of that, people keep tied.
How would you describe a mama's boy? Is this somebody that is letting mom run the marriage or run their life, or having too much leeway?
Are you asking me what I see as a mama's boy? The way that I see it is, the way that I've seen it is those men, the adult men that are still very tightly connected to the nest, the home. Mm-hmm. Some of them even still live there. I think it happens a little bit more in certain European cultures, especially around the Mediterranean, where you're kind of in the parents' household until you leave the nest and go build your own nest. So there's some tight connections, and I've seen some guys. It's like they don't even know how to do their own laundry, and they're in their 30s, or they've never really cooked a meal before because mom does everything for them. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's different versions of that. I'm curious as to what your experience is, Sean.
Yeah, well, they say that the younger generations take longer to get out of the nest. And, I think about what it's like here in Denver. It is ungodly expensive to live in Denver. And if you're coming out of school and you have student loan, and then you're looking at trying to rent a place for $1,500, $2,000 a month for just a passable place, or buy a place, it's going to be more than that. It's tough just economically to get out.
What's a 4-bedroom house cost there? The cost of housing is a lot less in the States from what I've noticed in major cities for the most part.
A 4-bedroom house here, low end would be probably half a million, 400,000, $500,000.
Yeah, you're talking $1 million plus for where I'm at, minimum.
Yeah, for a
that's in the suburbs, and that's in the suburbs. If you're right downtown Toronto, you're talking $1.5 million, $2 million.
Right. So this is one of the things I think young guys are contending with is it's tough.
There's a lot more condos now. There's a lot more glass boxes in the sky that they're kind of staying in now instead.
Yeah.
And so when you and I were younger, Rich, it was manageable. The numbers are different because of inflation and so forth, but you could work a shit job and still have enough to pay your rent and buy food and so forth. And man, it seems like it's tough these days to do that.
Yeah. All right, Corey.
So how I would describe mama's boy, going back to Sean's comment earlier, to me, there's a lot of side effects of it. You know what I mean? And like when I think of side effects, I think of, like if somebody has the cold or a flu, you see a lot of coughing and sneezing and fever. You know what I mean? Those are all kind of side effects of the root issue, which is like having an actual virus or the cold or the flu. And so when I see this, I see a lot of, guys, the failure to launch, still staying at their parents' house, or still, asking mom for money all the time when they're running out and all those kind of things. And I think the root of all of those is that females are still the authority in their life. And I think that's like the main pivotal point, is that when you grow up and you're a baby and a toddler, you know what I mean, and a little kid, that's normal, right? That the female of the house is the authority over you. You know, the moms usually have authority of the kids. But the problem is, eventually when you age, there has got to be a transition out of that to your own agency, you know, that cutting ties in order to be a man and have your own agency, have your own decisions made, and you're your own mental point of origin, right? And so the problem is before, in the past, we've always had set times and definitions of when it was best for that tribe or that culture to do that. But now we don't have that. And so, and not only that, especially because we have a lot of single parent households, there's not kids even being talked about that on the individualistic level. It's all about, it's just, they're always there. You know what I mean? And I think we talked about it last time I was on, but we've heard the phrase, and I think it talks on Red Pills, that like women are born and then men are made is a common thing.
Yeah.
You know, be yourself is a feminine thing. Make yourself is the masculine equivalent, right? But the problem is if we don't have that guidance, we don't have that direction, we don't know we have that option to cut ties and become ourselves, you know, and leave the group, then we're just going to be constantly living in it in a conscious or subconscious level, right? There's got to be some kind of event that leads to you separating and becoming your own agent. And I see, especially in the millennial and the Gen Z things, specifically, like there's people not cutting off because they don't know they can, you know what I mean? Or they don't know they're supposed to, or they don't know that's how they grow. They're just constantly staying in that female authority.
Let me ask you guys a question. Are you familiar with the concept of enmeshment?
Yes. Yep. That's a bullet point of it.
Okay. Is that something that you want to move into, or is that too much of a segue right now?
Oh, no. I think that's really important, because that's one of the things I'll talk about is like healthy mothering versus unhealthy mothering. I think that's a huge issue.
What does unhealthy look like versus healthy?
Yeah. And I think most people are coming from an unhealthy mothering just because of the social conditions on top of the individual conditions. And how mothers and fathers like relate and love their kids traditionally, right? The mom is like a blanket, you know what I mean? It's usually some type of comforting, and it's in the now, and it's like, you know, checking boxes of keeping them alive and fed and slept well and dressed and clean, right? And then the father's parenting role is usually a push-pull, while the mom's is more of a hug, you know what I mean? And so the father's push-pull is, you know, you pull them up when they fall down or they scrape their knee, you help them get back up, and then you push them towards a goal, right? You're the one actually trying to kick them out of the nest, in essence, because you want that agency, because you usually have it for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And so the problem is when you take those archetypes, to use it, you know, to not really use a better word, but to use the archetypes of parenting, like when comforting and hugging goes too far, you begin to suffocate and you begin to enmesh, are the two ways it kills that, right? And enmeshment's one of those huge things where it's the mom doesn't want to separate from the kid, and she wants them to essentially be a baby forever, right?
Is that something that happens to a higher degree from a single mother household? Because we know like something like 43% of kids today are raised in a single parent home, which is primarily going to be a single mother household because they get custody still, you know, the vast majority of the time. Mm-hmm. But is that something that happens more frequently in that environment with the absence of a father? And I've read of cases where it happens with the presence of a father. Have you read Neil Strauss's The Truth About Relationships?
I haven't, no.
Oh, it's a great book. Great book. Definitely check it out. It's probably one of my favorites. But there's like a big chunk of the book that's dedicated to the relationship, to the enmeshment that he had with his mom. Now, the father was in a household, so I'm just wondering if that's something that happens more often with single moms, or if it happens with both parents, or what your experience with that has been.
Yeah, I would say that goes back to like, does the father have a voice in the kid's life, right?
Right. Okay.
Does he have an actual
so he could be
authority there to say something about it, right? So when it's a single, you know, when there's no dad, obviously the voice is absent. But there's a lot of times where we have the dad that just, you know, clocks in his 9 to 5 and sits at home and watch TV, and mom does everything, right? Mm-hmm. In both of those cases, it's like not having a dad, you know? Okay. And it's the mom, when the mom is the sole voice and the sole authority, that's when it tends to be that way.
So the
I don't want to make a blanket
the mother
statement.
and the son happens more often if the father has no voice.
Yeah, exactly. You're only hearing one side of the equation. You know what I mean? If you're only being smothered without any kind of push or pull towards a goal or to get up, then that's where you are. You just sit there and suffocate.
Yeah.
So yeah, let's operationalize enmeshment. What it usually looks like is on a day-to-day basis is person A, the son or the daughter, can't get through the day, can't make decisions, can't do anything with it. They're on their phone texting mom, or they're calling mom, or mom's got to weigh in on every little thing. And there's just this daily, almost constant connection. And I see it more with mothers and daughters than mothers and sons, because sons tend to want to get out and just of their own accord.
Yeah.
But it's unmistakable when you see it, because it looks so weird to see somebody checking in with another human being all the time.
Yeah. I mean, when you see a toddler doing toddler things, you go, oh, that's cute. But when you see a 16 or an 18-year-old doing toddler things, it's a lot less cute, because at the end of the day, what you just described as being fully dependent on mommy, like you're a toddler.
I've seen moms do it with daughters too. Like I've seen instances where she's just all around her daughter, and this is a grown-ass woman. I mean, she's in her mid-20s, right? And she just like got her meat hooks right into her, and just looking at it like, that is very bizarre behavior, right? Like you see it sometimes with boys, but I've also seen it with women as well.
What I tend to see more with boys and young men, tell me if you see this, Conk, too, is more approval seeking. If they come from that home where the father's influence was absent or weak, usually weak, they'll be looking for their mother's approval on decisions and so forth. So it's not so much that day-to-day constant contact. It's more like, what's mommy going to think about my decision?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think either way, it's negative, just negative for different reasons, right?
Yeah.
And both of those suffocate. Oh, go ahead.
What about this over here? Davy says, they tell me all the time to live with parents in the mid-20s to save money and buy a place instead of renting. Is being independent worth the rent costs?
Hell yes. in my estimation.
Yeah.
What do you say, Conk?
Get out as quick as you can.
I would say, this is something we talked about in the 1% group a little bit, but I was talking about the difference between like mentally and physically separating from your mother, right? Yeah. Not everybody has to physically separate from their mother. It is possible to cut the umbilical cord and still live there, especially if you're like 15 or 16. That's just your thing, Okay,
so what if you can cut the umbilical cord and still live under the roof to save rent? Is there any value to that, staying there at 27 years old, you think?
I mean, if you're living in a place where every house is $1 million, maybe. But other than that, because I mean, if money's not there, and they need to learn to get out of that. But there's and I would say you really only need to physically separate if it's like an actual toxic or abusive household, right? Do that as soon as possible and get out of there. Yeah, I would say obviously if you have cluster B parents, you should probably get out of there as soon as possible. Cluster B is antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, or narcissistic personality disorder are the big ones. So if your family is diagnosed with any of those, like it's very, very hard for them to parent healthily, normally, whatever word you want to use there that sounds better.
So I'm curious, like let's kind of go into our origin stories here. So we got Sean, let me start with you. So how old were you when you left your parents' home?
I don't even remember. Sometime back in the 1800s.
BC.
Not as early.
You're not that much older than me, bro.
It was like 19 or so, I think, which was too long for me. I should have been out in high school, really. And I should have been out at 17.
Was it out because of school? Like you went to the school, or was it out because you got a job and you could buy, like rent your own place, or why did you get out?
I got out when I had the income to get an apartment and pay for gas and food and all that stuff. And
got it.
Yeah, so that's when I was. When were you guys out?
For me,
I should say I wasn't home much. Like between 16 and 19, I was barely home.
Me too. Like I was hardly ever home.
Around all the time.
Yeah, I was hardly around at that age.
I think that's part of the reason I didn't get out sooner, is because I was very comfortable just staying out.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I was about 21 or so. I remember it was at the point in my family where we were selling our house here, and my dad wanted to move the family over to England. And I was about 21 at the time. So I went over there with my dad and my middle brother. I lived there for about 3 or 4 months and hated it. So I came back. And by the time I came back, the house was sold and my mom and my youngest brother moved back. So I rented a room from one of my friend's mom for like $60 a week, I think. And then one of my friends from California rode his motorcycle up to Toronto, and we both rented rooms there. So it was awesome because she had a pool in the backyard. She was hardly ever there. She had some boyfriend down in Boston in the States summer, so she'd take off. It was just amazing for the first couple of years. But I definitely recommend it if you have the means to get out of your parents' house and lay down some roots for yourself. I have no regrets. I mean, yeah, you're going to spend money on rent or a mortgage or something like that, but it's either that or you're a mama's boy. What about you, Conk?
Yeah. So my senior year of high school, I actually lived with just my stepfather because they got divorced, but he lived closer to my actual school so I can graduate and get over with high school. And then ever since then, it was like a back and forth thing where like I would live with her for a couple months and then I'd go find some place to live for a couple months or a year. And then I would either change jobs or go to a different school or things like that. And between all those transitions, I usually crashed at her place for a couple months at a time. But I haven't actually lived with her since I graduated college, for sure. There was just random stints of living there for a couple months. And every single time, especially when you do that, cut the ties, and you do separate with a rite of passage, like it's painful to live there, right? It is painful. And I think that's one of the big points too, is like, when you develop your own mental point of origin, you develop your own frame and you finally cut past that. Going back into it, even if she's aware or not, she doesn't want it to happen, right? Most moms want their kids to be babies forever, right? Just to coddle and feed and hug and be nice to and have Hallmark family dinners, right? That's what most of their goals are, but it's their goal for you is usually diametrically opposed to your goal for yourself, right? So there'll always be that tension and that conflict. And I think a lot of guys are too scared to do that, right? They're either A, ignorant that they even have an option to be agent because nobody teaches them, or B, they're scared of it, right? Because they're scared of living on their own. They're scared of letting go, right?
Yeah, looking back, I could have easily been out in high school financially. And the only reason I wasn't is because I didn't think that I could.
Exactly. It's that narrative usually pitched to you. And if there's no competing voices, it's comfortable when you're a kid. You live at home, mom buys your food, mom pays your rent, mom does all that. Most of the time, even when you graduate high school, you could just sit in your underwear in your basement and play video games all day, right? Most of the time, mom's okay with that.
I'm really curious, guys, if you're watching this live, in the comments, tell us when you moved out of your parents' house. Just put down the age. Just start
put down. I'd be curious, how old are you now and how old were you when you moved out?
Me?
For the guys that comment.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I'll go post a comment real quick then.
So, Conk, I don't know what else you got on the checklist there, but at some point, let's move into what guys look like when they don't cut the umbilical cord and they're in their 30s and 40s, or
yeah. And that's one of those things I was thinking is like, when you do move out, like that's a side effect that you're approaching the right way. But I mean, you could still have a cold and not cough, right? They're not always, or you could cough and not have a cold. So. Yes, they usually are symbols for that, but it's not always that. There are people I know that are married with kids and they still, attach to the umbilical cord.
Yes, and mom is running the relationship in their house. The father's mother is too much in the household and too much in the business. And go ahead.
And there's also times where some guys transmute their mom's authority to their wife, right? Where their wife becomes a second mom to an extent. I don't know if you guys have seen that before, but that's where they just bow down to the mom every which way. They're just happy to even be in a relationship and have kids. They let the wife set all of the rules and the tone of the relationship because they're just used to, female is authority, right? The females rule the house because that's what they lived with and they don't know an alternative.
And this gets to be a really uncomfortable situation for everybody when you have, forget the male-female aspect. If you've got somebody that is allowing somebody else to lord over them, that's not a great situation for either side. Certainly not a great situation for the kids to see this kind of loss of agency in their father.
At what age are you considered an adult in the U.S.? Or does it vary by
18, 18, you can be your own legal guardian.
Yeah. I believe it's the same here still, yeah.
Okay. There's also a lot of subsets to that, like disabilities and all of that kind of stuff that I usually have to deal with, but in my work. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 18 is the traditional, you're your own legal guardian type of thing. Yeah. But how many 18-year-olds do you say automatically are like, boom, I'm good. I'm a man now. I have my own agency. I'm leaving the house. I think that is the extreme minority of 18-year-olds. Apart from maybe going to the military, but even in the military, you're not guaranteed to cut ties with mom there. You could just be waiting to crash on her place when you get back.
I'm 25, make 10 grand US dollars every month. And every time I say I'm going to move out, my mom cries, or she will say she's moving with me. I'm thinking about seriously this time in May. Dude, just get out, man.
Yeah.
Like, you've got the income, just get out.
Yeah, dude.
You got to cut the umbilical cord.
Yeah.
So I think
do you think that there's like a bit of a extra guilt trip that some moms throw on their sons, especially if there's no primary male role model in the household for her to rely on?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm thinking about this last guy's question, and I'm thinking, what some guys get hung up on is they want to be the good son, and who doesn't want to be the good son? You should be the good son. But when you're 25 years old, the good son doesn't necessarily mean you're doing everything your mother wants. The good son means that you are standing on your own 2 feet and you have a fully adult relationship with them, and her sentiments about the world are not driving your decisions. And you can have boundaries with her. I get kind of tired of that word, boundaries. But for example, she doesn't get to tell you that you can't move out. You move out. You're still her son. You're still going to take care of her, but you're in a much better position to take care of her if you're a fully functioning man.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think another point in that last super chat, it's kind of the between the lines that even if he wants to move out, he's still in his mother's frame because he's letting her influence his decisions, mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, 100%. He's saying, like, I'm thinking seriously about it this time in May. Like, he's got his calendar marked. He's got May. He's got his highlighter.
I'm gonna do it, guys. I'm gonna do it. I swear, Mom. I'm gonna
do it in May this time, Mom. I'm seriously.
You're still in your mother's frame. Whether you praise your mom or you blame your mom, both of those you're still in her frame, right?
Yeah, and not to pick on the guy. He sounds like he clearly loves his mom, and she's probably a wonderful woman. But we have to be adults at some point.
Mm-hmm. All right, quick test for you guys. What car is that in the avatar? Let's deal with the car thing. Can you guys tell?
Got glasses.
Alfa Romeo 4C. Let's carry on with the.
Yeah, something European.
Sammy says cutting ties with your mom is as important as your first breakup. Men who do not go through this rite of passage believe that women's love is unconditional. This led to stagnation, mediocrity, and living on a futon at 50. I could believe it. Thanks for the super chat, Sammy. Appreciate it. Yeah, there's this epidemic of these men today that are just weaker, and we use these colored pills to describe their beliefs and what they subscribe to, blue pill versus red pill. And I think that there's a lot of guys, for the most part, that still put women up on a pedestal or will bend the knee to the female primary social order because of a bad relationship or a toxic relationship, with their mother. The other guy before that said that he needed to mark his calendar for May to seriously think about doing it. It feels like the same sort of condition, right? I mean, you don't need your parents' permission to do anything when you're a grown-ass adult. You can do whatever you want. Yeah.
Especially said he's making $10K a month. Like, freaking go find a freaking $1,000 studio apartment down the street from your work. Just do it next week. Mm. I'm pretty sure you'll get accepted with that income, right?
Yeah, it's decent money.
Yeah, but moving out is actually probably one of the smaller issues he's got to contend with. It sounds like what he's got to contend with is his mother driving his decisions, or him, more accurately, him allowing what his mother might think to influence his decisions.
Yeah, correct. And this is something I wanted to point out as well, is there's a really good article on a blog called The Art of Manliness. It's run by a Mormon guy. He lends more on the TradCon, the traditional conservative side. Mm-hmm. But
Brett McKay, his name.
Yeah, Brett McKay. Yeah. And he had a guest post. I can't remember the author, but they had an article in 2010 or 2011 called "Blow Up a Relationship with Your Mother," and it was great. And they talked about specifically why is it blow up the relationship with your mother versus just have a nice calm sit down, because it will never work that way. When you want to just have a nice calm sit down saying, "Okay, Mom, I want to be by myself," you're going to get stuck with yellow super chat guy, where it's going to be a frame battle of when am I moving out, when am I not moving out, and you're going to be playing tug of war. But an explosion's an explosion. It happened, right?
Yeah.
And so you just have to define your terms and say, this is it. This is what it is. If you hate this and you want to cry, I'm sorry, but that's the way it is, right? It's not, oh, I want to respect your feelings. I want to respect your feelings too. Everyone have the sit down talk. That will be dragged on for weeks, months, years, right?
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the sit down talk in this particular situation. I think your wife, that's a different situation. Your girlfriend, different situation. But sons and mothers, no, there's a time where you start conducting yourself differently. And a couple of the reasons not to have the sit down talk and the announcement about how things are going to be different going forward. Number one, it's too much like asking permission. You don't, that's exactly what you don't want to be doing.
You're allowing them to have input in your agency, right?
Yes. And the point of you making your own decisions and relating to her like an adult is not asking for her decisions. And the other thing is that if it's not a very healthy relationship, she's going to be waiting for you to falter. Whereas if you just in your own mind define the boundaries, and maybe the boundary is, okay, you're not going to tell me how to raise my kid, you know? And so when that starts to come up, you make a little request, Mom, I'd prefer you not do that. And if she presses on, Mom, I'll have to talk to you later. You know, and you're acting out your boundaries. You're not announcing your boundaries.
Yeah, exactly. The demonstrate
an important distinction.
Yeah.
Hunter said here in the super chat, found a woman who agreed to a prenup. I love her, but I'm always willing to walk away. Love mom too, but men can love mom and still be independent. Correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And that's what I was saying before. Like, physically separating is optional, because when I say physically separating, it's not just moving out, it's cutting ties, like she doesn't exist anymore. She's out of your life. Like, that's probably useful if she's been in a very toxic or abusive relation, or she had a toxic or abusive relationship with you. That's probably your best thing. But like, you know, you could still love your mom and you could still relate to her, but it's like what Sean said, you're relating to her on an adult level, right? You're mentally cutting ties with her, the mother-son relationship, and now you're more on a, you know, friendly adult to adult talk, right?
Which puts you in a better position to love her like an adult.
Exactly. Yeah. How much a kid can make you breakfast and bread and make a bed and give you some nasty cold burnt toast, right? But an adult can help an adult significantly more.
NYPD says, I'm 31. My mother lives with me and I pay the rent. No dad. She can't work. If I move out, she will not be able to afford to live here. I'm stuck.
Oh, yeah.
What do you guys think about that?
A little different situation. Doesn't sound like, I mean, just from this little snippet, doesn't sound like he's living in her frame. It sounds like he's taking care of his mother.
Yeah. And that's a personal choice. The other thing I would be worried about, and I don't want to be super negative Nancy, but there are a lot of times where sickness is self-inflicted, if that makes sense. That's happened a lot. At least I've seen in my family and friends' families, where one of the female family members will say they're sick and they're disabled and they can't work.
Yeah.
But they totally can. And they use that to guilt trip and stay in the couch and stay in their sons' and daughters' lives way past their date because, I need help. Come help me. Right.
Yeah. I'm not saying that's what happened in this case.
Yeah. I'm not saying it happens all the time. She could be legitimately sick. We don't know. You know, we got two senses, but that does happen.
Real quick, guys. We're going to be taking call-ins later on in the show. So I've dropped the join link. So Josh is in the chat moderating. So if you click through this link that I've just posted, you'll go through to him. He's going to make sure your audio and video is solid. You got your question all squared away, and then you're going to hop into my waiting area, and I'll put you on here. So if you have a question tonight on the topic, or maybe an experience to share that might offer some value to the people watching, definitely click that through and make sure Josh can verify your audio and video, and we'll have a conversation about it. Let me grab the super chat real here before I lose it. Popsky says, got out of my parents' house at 25. Both got pissed off, but I got free. Applied red pill concept to family relationships. It helps. Is there a way that you can apply that lens to your relationships?
And boy, do I have some bullet points on it.
All right, go. Do it.
So the main thing when you look at the dating strategies that we talk about in the red pill, you know, when we talk with, you know, Rachel Rollo, the Rule Zero people, you know, we hear men love idealistically and women love opportunistically, right?
Yep.
And like the themes between a lot of that and the things is what's happening in the moment versus who has a long-term vision versus a short-term vision. So that we put about that. So usually in the female's dating strategy, it's what's available right now. What are my options? What's going on in this exact moment, right? While the men's when they're thinking idealistically, usually we apply that to the one-ightist and the blue pill mindset, right? Of, oh, I'm going to love this girl, and we're going to have 2.5 kids and a white picket fence, and everything will be perfect. But the root of both of those is the woman is looking at what's happening right now and is trying to predict the future, and the guy is looking at the future and trying to mold the present to it, right? That's why they usually ignore way more red flags. He's like, oh, I really want that ideal life so bad that, oh, she'll get over that. Oh, she spends a lot. We'll get over it. It will fix it. She won't be like that forever, right? They blow all those off because they're still trying to force right now into their future vision. Where the other side of the female is they're looking at happenings, what's happening right now, and then predicting a future off of it, if that makes sense. Where the woman cares about right now and predicts the future based on present circumstances, and the guy is trying to build a future in his head and is trying to force fit the present into that, right? And so it's just which one is the static and which one is the adaptable, to use fancy terms. And so how that applies to like mothers and fathers is the mother is usually in the moment right now when she's with her kids and parenting as well. Like, oh, if a kid is riding his bike and fell and scraped his knee, oh my God, he's going to die, right? She's predicting the future off of what she's seeing right now, right? Right. Where on the other side, you look at the father's role and it's more of, what do I want my kid to be and how can I manipulate and work now to help him, guide him and push him in that direction, right? And so the problem with that is the mom never really sees the boy grow up. She does and she doesn't like it, right? Because she remembers the happy days, right? Of, oh, when he was a little baby and they were dependent on me and I was the mom and I was the authority. I love that, right? Then every time you're going to meet with your mom in the future, there's going to be that frame battle where she's going to try to crab bucket you essentially back into her frame of mother-son, where she's the authority, right?
What do you mean by crab bucket? Just explain that. So
yeah. So the crabs in the bucket, the crabs in the bucket analogy is essentially when somebody is trying to pull you back down to something previous, right? Where you see it a lot where like white knights or beta orbiters or, you know, all of those types of terms where they're trying to grab guys who are starting to unplug and bring them back into, you know, back into the society structure, back into the blue pill, you know, trying to pull them back in that frame. In the mom side, it's you trying to climb out and be on your own and be independent. And the mom wants to drag you back into the bucket of the mother-son relationship, right?
Right.
And, you know, crabs, when they're in a bucket, there's always some at the bottom pulling the ones trying to climb out.
Got it.
That's essentially what it is. And so the mom is always constantly pulling and tugging and testing to see if you're going to be the son again or if you're an independent man, right?
Yeah, and unless she's got some kind of access to disorder, it's not a hostile, offensive thing she's trying to do. She's just being a mother. She's just being a loving person usually.
Mm-hmm. That phrase, she's being a mother, right? It's the mom version of boys will be boys.
Well, she's following that instinct. You know, she wants to love on her kid.
Mm-hmm. But can that instinct make a man, right? Nope, not at all. That's the problem. And you're going to fight that frame battle quite a few times.
It can make a very healthy child, but it can't make a man.
It won't make a healthy adult male.
No, it won't make a healthy adult.
Yeah, just like we were talking about before, when a toddler does toddler things, it's cute. But when an adult does toddler things, it's repulsive, right? It's no longer cute. You've passed your point, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. What other points we got to hit here before we start taking some callers?
Let me see here. Oh yeah. So this is a lot on the micro level of dealing with your actual mom. You know what I mean? Figure out if it's a toxic relationship or not. We can go more into that. And like how to mentally cut that and find your own agency and realize it's a blow up. It's not a, you know, sit down talk. It's okay. These are my terms of service, right? Accept or decline. Either way, I'm doing my thing, right? And so, there's that, but I think there's a macro scale of like why this is even worse than it is. And it's a similar thing going back to female authority, where I think right now, to summarize both the micro and the macro, is female authority is kind of overstaying its welcome in a boy's life. In that the mom has an extremely important role when they're babies and toddlers and young kids. But, you know, there's that rites of passage time, anywhere from 10 to 20, depending on culture, where you have to start separating. But we don't have that both on the micro and on the macro scale when we're looking at daycares and kindergartens and the school system and babysitters. and even Sunday schools. All of those are female authority places.
Yeah.
All the way up into high school and now college. I think most of college professors are female now, right? Or at least it's skewing that way.
If not, it is definitely an environment that is ruled by female energy for sure.
Yeah. The colleges have become very.
I think all of education is ruled by females right now.
Yeah, exactly. And so instead of females being your authority until you're like 8 to 12, now they're your authority until you're 22, 23, 24, right? And if you're having that female authority and they don't understand the male experience, right? We talk about a lot of the times in school, boys are treated as defective girls because they can't empathize with that. Just like we can't empathize, like we wouldn't be able to really teach an empathetic class about like how to give birth or how to deal with menstruation, right? Mm-hmm. We have no experience of that. We can read textbooks all we want, but you won't get it. You know what I mean? Likewise, the female won't really get the male experience, but there are authority from baby until college now in the American system. And so I think that's
Mac, let me just hit that super chat real quick. He says, if I had the money to put down payment, should I do that? Or do I rent until I know I need to move to work? There's a few variables in there that you got to consider depending on where you live, what you're doing, how old you are, and market conditions as well. I mean, if you want to hop in and click the join link, Josh can screen your audio and video to make sure it's good. Then you can throw that live. We do some questions back and forth on it, but there's some variables that you got to consider there.
And also remember, renting's pretty temporary. Like you can change that whenever the hell you want.
Yeah, and
buying on last minute decisions is usually.
We had a live Q&A the other day. I can't remember if you were in it at that point or if it was at the point when you had to leave Conk, but there was a guy that had a property and it was in kind of too much of a rural area, and it didn't make sense to keep it. And even if he sold it, he wasn't even going to make any money on it at that point after being on it for 3 years. So there's a lot of things to consider. It's not a cut and dry, rent or buy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right.
You know what? Carry on finishing those points, guys. I'll get to these super chats in a minute. So just sit tight, Pavel and Hunter. We'll get to you in just one sec.
Yeah. Well, I want to see, how do you guys feel about that? The female authority in the schools and all of that. Does that make sense?
What are you going to do about it? You know what the problem is? Like here in the school system today, right now, like I live in Ontario, right? And we have this big strike that's happening in the school system. And the narrative that they're using is cuts hurt kids. Because,
what does that mean?
Well, the government can't afford to keep paying teachers $100,000 a year because that's what they get paid here. So they need to increase the classroom sizes to, cut back on the debt, which is the fiscally, responsible thing to do. But then the teachers will go and turn that around and say, well, if we increase the classroom sizes, then instead of having 33 students, I've now got 35 or 36 students, and that's too much, and we can't handle it, and your children are going to suffer. But what they should be striking for, what they should be marching for, in my estimation, it's not that cuts hurt kids. It's that they're actually dealing. They've gone and created the same problem that men are dealing with now when it comes to matrimony and family law, where they basically have responsibility, but they don't have authority. Right. Mm-hmm. So they're getting a taste of what the masculine medicine has been for decades now. And they're struggling with it because they have difficult children in the classroom. Society's a lot softer. We're told to accommodate all these zillions of different genders and all the other things that are incorporated with that, with learning behaviors. Whereas, I don't know. I remember we went to this Pioneer Village, I think it was, in elementary school, and they were all wooden desks, and there was a wood burning stove at the back, and they'd have a pot of soup on the stove, and the teacher would rap you on the knuckles if you're a bad kid. So, the dynamic shifted a lot, and we're not like in the school system. Now we have this bias where it's just be soft and bubble wrap them. And they're starting to see that come back and kick them in the butt. Like they're having a hard time with children now in the classrooms, not even just children, but like teenagers and even, more towards the elder years as well after they graduate. But they're having a much more difficult time. But yeah, as far as back to the original part of that is it's primarily women. It's primarily female driven when it comes to the education system here anyway.
And one of the big problems with that is that women, God bless them, have nothing I don't fault them for this, but they typically don't know how to deal with boisterous, energetic boys. And so this is where we see Ritalin come into the picture.
Well, they can't deal with them. They don't have the authority to deal with them, right? Because now, like when I was a kid, if I showed up and I didn't do something right, or I was misbehaving in class, I would hear about it from my parents. Like I would get the blame. Today now, the teacher gets the blame for everything. Well, you should just, let Jazandopus go and punch people in the face and knock everybody over and all that sort of stuff.
What's that kid's name?
Jazandopus. Did you ever see that stand-up bit with Louis C.K.?
No.
Or C.K. Lewis? I keep getting his name backwards and forward, but there's a little segment that he did on this bastard kid called Jazandopus. You got to look it up on YouTube. It's hilarious.
Okay. That's great.
Let me see if I can dig it up while Corey's carrying on there.
Yeah.
I'll just drop it in the chat.
Yeah, I had 2 more points that we can definitely go over, and one of them is a lot more fun, so we'll go with that one.
Okay, go.
How do you feel about cougar fetishes? Because that came up recently in one of the other chats I was in. I think it was
Cougar fetish. You have to expand on that.
Yeah, where younger guys, in their teens and 20s, are obsessed with 40 and 50-year-old women, right?
They're obsessed with mommy more, or what mommy wasn't. Sometimes, they're trying to replace what they didn't have in mommy. They'll find these relationships that are safe and comfortable and nurturing and caring, and more often than not, is because they didn't experience that, in my estimation.
Yeah, and so that's what I think is a lot of those, like, whether you call it a fetish or a disorder, whatever you want to call it, it's like a lot of that comes from a type of mommy issue, or a type of women are like the female authority, and they're also the sexual authority, right? Where that the older female knows best, and I want to use them, and like they always use the term like, oh, those girls are experienced, right? And like they're looking to them as the authority to teach them, or that they are the best, and they're pedestalizing, middle-aged the older women because of that, right? And I think that all comes back to female are the authority even in their sexual life.
Yeah, well, it's weird. I mean, like, if you follow Rollo on Twitter, it's like every other day he's got some new article or some new court case with some adult teacher that's banging a 14-year-old or something like that. Yeah. It's just bizarre.
Yeah, and we don't seem to get very upset about it because, man, those kids are lucky.
Yeah,
it's horrible. These kids can be scarred for life. I mean, meaning, that's such a stupid term, but meaning that their adult relationships are really tough to get off the ground because they had such a bad start in their sexual life.
Indeed.
It's horrible.
Exactly.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Let me grab Pavel's super chat here. Thanks, man. He says, mother's giving me silent treatment and won't respond because I asked her to pay me back on finances. I love her and want to have a good relationship and not be taken advantage of. Any advice? You need to treat situations like this exactly the same as what you would anybody else. You don't give her a special mommy card just because she pushed you out of her body. Doesn't matter. Those privileges don't relate when you're an adult. But that's just my take on it. What do you guys think?
Yeah, there's something else there going on with this relationship. There's more than money. Money usually represents something else, and in these kind of close relationships, I don't know what's up there.
I find anyway, some kind of control mechanism, like Conk. We see this come up on the 1% private Facebook group from time to time, where somebody's got a question about a relationship issue with their parents, and it's more often not their mom. And I think we've seen this one, before. But it's like you got to set boundaries and you got to enforce them. I mean, there's no difference with enforcing boundaries in a relationship with your kids, with coworkers, with your parents. You've got a line in the sand, draw a perimeter around that boundary and make sure the line doesn't get crossed. And if it gets crossed, there's got to be consequences.
Yeah. And I mean, in that article I was talking about before, blowing up the relationship with your mother, they were talking about grabbing your nuts. And nuts is an acronym for non-negotiable, unalterable terms of service, right? And those apply to your mom, they apply to your sister, they apply to the stranger walking by. What are your values for your life? What are your terms of living in the world? And universally apply them, right? They're non-negotiable, they're unalterable, even if it's your mom, even if it's little sweet grandma. Try to figure out what those are and make sure you apply them universally, right? And so, I mean, in that example, I mean, it's always better to have more context, but I mean, maybe you just need to grab your nuts and do what you need to do regardless if it's your mom or not, Right?
I have a different way to phrase that. Lift up your skirt and grab your nuts. I'm just kidding, man. Sorry, Sean, go ahead.
What a lot of guys will do when they first start putting these nuts into place is they'll go way over to the extreme because they haven't done it before. So they get really aggressive about enforcing their rules. And then as they get better at it, they sort of come back to the middle where they can do it in a more loving way with people that are close to them. But it's just sort of a natural process.
Here's a super chat from Hunter, and I don't know, maybe you guys have some experience with this, but he says, I'd like to bounce off and say that the female environment leads to the hyperdosing of ADHD meds well into a man's 20s. Have you guys seen any kind of connection with that?
Yeah, I mean, and this is something we talked about in that Iron John chat I did with Jack Napier on Friday. Was talking about like a lot of medications, especially like ADHD and stuff. It's obviously getting prescribed to both genders. It's obviously not exclusively male, but it's mostly male because the school environment and that female environment isn't suited for boys, right? Boys like rough and tumble, getting their knees scraped, going on adventures, and that's antithetical to sitting down and reading a book and taking a pop quiz, right? And so I think those ADHD meds in general are getting more prescribed to boys because that's not a boy environment, right?
Yeah, absolutely. School was torture for me when I was in grade. It was just hell. I felt like I was chained to this desk like a galley slave, and I'm just looking out the window. I was miserable, and I'm certain that had I come along 20 years later, they would have drugged me up, or somebody would have suggested that I needed to be drugged up.
Yeah, I was definitely I was a proud C student. Unfortunately, my mom had the bumper sticker.
Congratulations! I was a proud D+ student. Well done.
Yeah. And it's not that I couldn't get A's. I just didn't want A's just to stick it to the man. It's like, screw this place. I will give you my bare minimum.
Way to fight the system. I did the same kind of stuff. It's a very self-sabotaging way to get back.
Yeah. Until you realize, how many tuition and scholarships I could have got with that. But you learn that later. I'm still proud of my non-accomplishments. I mean, I love that. They had so I went to a small high school. There's a little side story. And we had 30 people in my graduating class. And that was 2008 graduating class. And since it was small, we only had 30 students. They make graduation this huge freaking deal. Like they stack it up to the nines. It was like a private school, so they had a crap ton of money. I censored myself there, keep it monetized. But but they had that. And then like in the brochure for the graduation ceremony, it showed each kid had their own page and all of the accomplishments they had and all of the places they're planning on going. And mine was blank, and I've never been happier in my life. Didn't get a letterman's jacket, never told them what colleges I was going to, and never got any kind of dean's list or any kind of after-school activities. I was like, nope. You can't make me be accomplished.
We got Jason here in the chat. He's saying he got held back a grade, and you should be familiar with that name, Conk, but he's a highly successful real estate investor today. School does not matter that, as much as they,
no, it does not predict success.
It has very little prediction on your success and well-being in the world. In fact, I think it's probably more of a detriment today. Like I always tell guys when they're asking about college, university, like, you know what? If you don't need a degree that's going to allow you to make the money you're looking for, or you're not in STEM like engineer, math, or something like that, I'd probably skip it and take that 10, 20, 30 grand that you're going to spend that year and use it to start up a business. And if you make something of it, awesome. If you don't, oh well, you probably learned a hell of a lot more doing that anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely we talk about the blue pill for relational dynamics, but I mean, I see the blue pill as the first narrative given to you and you accept it, right?
Yeah.
Ever since we're kids, we say, go get good grades, go to college, get a 9-to-5 job, and just
go be nice, go be humble, be kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the American dream, right? The American dream in itself is its own blue pill.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do exactly this, check those boxes, and then you'll be happy and a productive American, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what school generally predicts is success in school generally predicts success in following instructions and
it's obedience
within a structure. Yeah. You could call it, it's obedience to a point, but it's also the ability to function within a structure. And that's not necessarily a bad skill. But it's not a skill that necessarily puts you where rich is, for example.
John just made a good point. I mean, basic things like balancing calories or managing money, a lot of people don't do well in real life either.
Yeah. Usually you wait till you get slapped with that in real life and you go, oh, Why didn't anybody teach me this? Right?
Yeah.
We got Joseph waiting to hop on and ask a question. So whenever you're ready to pull him in, Conk, I can bring him in.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
I'm ready.
All right, fire away, brother. You got a question? Joseph. Oh, we've lost audio. Something happened between the time Josh was talking to him and we got him on.
Oh, he's got to mute, unmute, but I guess it's not working.
Joseph. I thought I heard him there for a second.
Yeah, I heard a little hello.
I heard something.
All right, distance.
Here. I'll pull you out in the private chat. Just send me a message when you got your audio back up, Joseph. I'll pull you back in when you're ready to go. All right. Do you have a couple other bullet points there, man?
Let me think. I mean, just in general, like how was your relationship with your mothers as a kid and as an adult? Did you guys feel that frame tension? Like when you go home for the holidays or to go visit, do you feel her trying to mom you still?
Oh yeah. To this day. I mean, she does it to me. She does it to my brothers all the time. But you can only manage that when you start putting healthy boundaries between you and your mother, right? Mm-hmm. If you're going to let her get in the way and continue to coddle you and try to bubble wrap you in your adult life, you're going to run into problems like within yourself, with your other relationships, with work, with your relationship with money. You definitely have to set boundaries. And it's like, look, you don't need to ask me how my poopies are today. Everything's good. Don't worry, Mom.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I was going to say one of the funny stories is, and this also applies to like grandmas too, because my grandma is a hoot in that this happened fresh out of college. Like it was my first job out of college. And I went to go visit. I think it was like, I was there for like 3 or 4 days.
Go ahead. Finish up.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Yeah, his sound's working, but go ahead and finish your story.
Oh, yeah, let me finish this real quick. So yeah, I was there for a couple of days. That's when I had off time after college, and during one of the dinners, my grandma decided to announce to everyone we're eating. Oh, so there's really good news today. Conk took out the trash all by himself, and I left. I left because I refused to listen to that. I was like freaking 23 years old and had my own job, living on my own. And my grandma had to announce that, wow, what a big boy. You took out the trash today on your own. And nobody asked him. And I literally got in my car and left.
You did the right thing.
Yeah. I was like, no, that's done. We're done with that. Yeah. It's just like, I don't need high fives for, tying my shoes and wiping my butt. So.
All right, Joseph, fire away, man. You got a question?
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, man.
Yeah. So have a question regarding dealing with mom trying to control your life.
Spicy.
Physically separated from mom on my own, taking care of myself. But back when I was more blue-pilled, got zeroed out by a BTT girl, and mom had to step in and help financially quite a bit. And over time, paying her back and stuff, still owe her money and all that. But she's basically using that as leverage to try to exert control, trying to say, I need to know everything you're doing with your money. I need to look at your statements, your spending and all that. And I'm like, no, like I know what I'm doing. I'm on track with things. I got to do this on my own. And she's not having it. Like,
why is she trying to control this?
Because I owed her money from back when she helped me. So back when I got zeroed out by someone, I had to seek out help from family. Father's not in the picture, passed away a while ago, and she's pretty much the support at that. When it comes to 27.
Okay. Well, I mean, you're a grown ass adult. You don't need to show her your financial statement. She's not your accountant. She's not the government. You don't owe her anything.
Yeah, because
you owe her money is all that you owe her.
Part of it is she's. Not like she's threatening to disown me, but it's definitely like bordering on that kind of attitude when she talks about it.
That always seems to be like the standard, punishment to like boys, and it's almost like moms think that boys care if they get disowned by their mother. I think the mom will suffer a lot more than what you will. So let her disown you and just say, all right, have a go at it and see how you feel. It's just the whole indifference thing. It's like if you've got a relationship with a girl and she throws a hissy fit, you're just like, fine, whatever, jump on the ground and kick and scream and bang your fists and legs into the ground. You just kind of walk away and you just ignore it. You don't give it any oxygen. And I wouldn't be surprised if the reason why you ran into crazy with the girl that you were dating and got zeroed out is probably because there's some similarities between that and your mom too, right?
Yeah, definitely there is that.
Mm-hmm. Is this loan the only place where this kind of tension is showing up with you and your mom?
Pretty much. It's only the financials. I mean, any other aspect of our relationship is, I mean, we've had a really good relationship. It's weird. It's like when this comes up, it's completely different versus any other place. Family get-togethers, talking on the phone about anything else, it's fine. This comes up and it just like it's like a complete change in attitude.
What's the arrangement? Are you making monthly payments or what?
Yeah. I make monthly payments back, and like I said, it was a lot. I'm not going to get into that, but it was a lot of helping things out. And she's kind of using that like to try.
It's not like you're not paying her though. Like you are paying her, right?
Oh no, I am.
Yeah. So like, if you have a mortgage on a house, then one of the conditions on a mortgage agreement, and I've taken the mortgage course a number of years ago, like one of the conditions as the mortgagor is you cannot bother the mortgagee so long as they're making the payments.
Right.
Like you can't intrude on the property. You can't go power of sale. You can't, go to the front door and say, I'd like to inspect the property and see if your utility bill's up to date. You can't bother them. Right. So that's a boundary that you can also, consider enforcing is like, look, Mom, I'm making the payments, go away. Like there's nothing here for you to harass me on. So, scram, beat it, whatever it is that you want to tell her, just do it lovingly, but be firm.
What have you tried so far?
I kind of, so when she's like, I want to look at what you're spending, I kind of stop it at, I can tell you what bills I have to pay, but I'm not telling you exactly where my money is going. Like,
dude, you don't even answer. You don't even respond to that. Right.
What's she worried about? Is she worried that she's not going to get paid, or is she worried that you're going to screw up again, or what's going on?
I mean, but just with what had happened, with everything that happened with the girl that I was with, there was a huge pattern of very like defeating attitudes, and then I still maintain everything, but I actually got better at getting my life figured out, doing the work, like Rich says. And anytime that I try to talk to her about improving my life, she thinks I'm like full of myself and I'm full of pride.
Why is she trying to take you down, you think?
Yeah, that's an interesting thing.
And it reminds, I think it kind of reminds her of my dad, because he was a big risk taker, and she kind of sees me as someone who's like taking risks, trying to do, make my life a better life, and thinks that I'm just going to fail, and then every time that comes up, it kind of turns into, your father was just like this.
This is a great example of ties that need to be cut. Like,
I think
ago.
Yeah. So I was going to give a descriptive and a prescriptive of how I see it. The descriptive of this is just what's going on. It's a lot like when my grandma told me, good job taking out the trash. Right now, your mom is just trying to check, are you being a good little boy? Right. She wants to make sure you're a good little boy. That's why she wants to see all of your finances, is to make sure you're making all the right, safe choices. You know what I mean? And she wants to helicopter it, right? Where she wants to oversee everything like a benevolent dictator, where she wants to oversee everything you're doing and make sure you're her good little boy right now and you're not making bad decisions. And just like the grandma was trying to praise me, he's like, oh, Corey's being a good little boy. He made the right decisions today, right? It's the same mindset, just the flip of the coin. I'm like, that's just how I'm seeing it from the descriptive part. And the prescriptive is, just going along with what Rich said, like, they go, treat this like you would anybody owed money, right? If Sean owed me $200, I don't think he would expect me to go look into all of his finances and make sure he's paying me on time, all that. It's like, the money's there or there isn't, that's all the information I need, right?
How much is the debt, Joe?
At this moment, about $2,000.
Oh my God, it's nothing.
Right.
What's keeping you from just paying it off?
Still doing a lot of work to like get, I'm making the payments that I am. I mean, it's going to be done within a year. It's ever since I've kind of started to go down the path of like being more red pilled. Anytime that comes up in a conversation, it kind of changes the way she looks at me.
So if you really bore down on this debt, how quickly could you pay it off?
Probably 6 months, half the time.
Is she charging you interest, by the way?
No, she isn't.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, once you gotten through it and you got her off your back, I mean, things may return a little more to like a state of normalcy, but she's like, I think that people have a way of throwing rocks on the ice to test how strong it is. And I almost feel like she's using this $2,000 debt because she's really making a mountain out of a molehill, if you're asking me anyway. But
yeah, I'm really intrigued by the number. Is this a ton of money to her?
I've never really looked into I've never really figured like how she looks at money.
Well, I mean, you know her though. Does this make or break her retirement? I mean, $2,000 doesn't really.
No, it doesn't. I mean, she's in a really good situation with her job, and
okay, so she's extracting a lot of control over a little bit of money. This is a really weird situation. So it makes me wonder if this has shown up elsewhere in your relationship, and if it's going to continue to show up after you pay her off.
Yeah, I think this is definitely showing some kind of underpinning issue going on with her. Not necessarily you are doing anything wrong, but
I'll say this: back when I wasn't as having my life together, there were times that I did miss things. I'll say that.
But things.
but in
or people. Yeah.
Sorry, what was the question? Did you guys ask me something?
You said you missed things. What did you mean?
Oh, no. So during this time, she had loaned me certain amounts of money, and I was missing payments in the beginning. But then I started getting on track, and then she still just doesn't seem to trust me.
Okay. Well,
there's two problems here, Joe. One, you don't make enough money. It shouldn't take you a year to pay off $2,000. So you're holding yourself back. Nobody else is holding you back. It's just you holding yourself back. You've got a limiting belief on whatever your earning potential should be, because like $2,000 should not be a lot of money for you at your age. You should be able to do that. So whether you take on an extra job or you find ways to make more money. So that's the first thing. The second thing is the control mechanism. It needs to stop. You need to enforce a boundary. You have to put your foot down. Look at it from back to that mortgage example that I used earlier. It's quite simple. You're making the payments. She can pound sand. It's as simple as that. Just stay out of your way. Just get out of the way. Joe's working here. Simple as that.
Yeah, I tend to agree with both of those points. I mean, if you delivered pizza for a couple of months, it seems like you could round up a couple $1,000s. And maybe you've got a lot of other debt and so forth. But your mom's obviously anxious about something, and we could sit here and try to analyze her, but maybe what you need to bring to the situation is just calm, confident energy, just repeatedly saying, Mom, it's cool. I paid you. I'm going to keep paying you. You're going to get paid off. Relax.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All
right, Joe.
Cool. Yep. Thanks,
brother.
All right. Have a good one, senor.
All right, let's throw these super chats up. Sorry, guys. I'll do the super chats, then I'll get to you next, Aaron. Okay. Mtrusive, thanks for that. He says, grew up tight with a large family, wife. Daddy issues did not drive her mad to the point where we moved far away. Hang on, I'm confused already. Grew up tight with a large family, wife. So I'm guessing that's your mom?
It sounds like it's
his wife. Is making the decision to move away because she hates the large family. That's
okay. Got it. Feels good to be on her own, but when they call, she gets pissed off. How do I set boundaries? Well, what are they doing when they're calling?
Yeah. Are they calling 3 times a day? That's like a way bigger deal than every once in a while checkup. Yeah.
I've seen that. I've seen where like the frequency of calls or the duration of calls is so large that it interrupts the dynamic of your day-to-day life in, your own family. I mean, if you got a wife and kids, or if you got a wife, or you got things going on in your own life, if they're on the horn with you on a regular basis, and just let them talk to your voicemail. There's nothing wrong with that.
And I think that last question, how do I set boundaries on both? I think the first step on that is you decide how much time you're going to spend talking to your family, because you choose how much time you want to spend talking to them. And then that's the way you act from now on, and you be consistent with everybody.
We got a lot of car fans that ask questions. I'm starting to dig this. We got a Infinity in this one. We're going to play a little game here whenever we see a car in the icon. Mike says, my problem is my mom acts personality-wise as the alpha, calling the shots. I don't know how to. That's not. Women can't be the alpha. She's just controlling is what it is, calling the shots. I don't know how to relax in my own masculinity. Too recent. Is that a word that I don't know?
Reticent?
Reticent?
Like hesitant?
Is that a word? I've never heard of that before.
It is a word. I can't define it. Let me
Google that.
My dictionary here.
Yeah, pull up the dictionary, see what that is.
Something like hesitant.
Because he has the doctor's name doesn't mean he's learned.
It's
too big for us.
It's basically the same thing as letting a woman run you in a relationship is really what it boils down to. Like, there's no such thing. Like, get that concept of I'm a female alpha. There's no such thing as a female alpha. It just does not exist. There's this like rise of the boss girl today. Like, you hear these women that use hashtag boss girl. It's like, no, you're just a chick that runs a business. You're not a boss girl. There's no female alphas. Get that crap out of your head. She's not calling the shots. She's just controlling is what it is. And all you have to do is just put your foot down. If you're an adult, if you're over the age, if you're an adult, then you have the right to make your own choices. It really just boils down to that.
Yeah, it's real. Like when the female tries to be masculine, it's usually a cartoonified version of a male. You know what I mean? They don't fully get it. They just go, "Oh, that's what the guys look like on the TV shows. I'm gonna try that." Right?
Yeah, I'm gonna try that too.
Yeah.
Well, we have all the female superheroes now. Like, there's a female bat person that is kind of a ridiculous. She just has all these amazing powers, and the suit should have been made for a woman in the first place, and so forth. And we've got all these female superheroes that are punching people in the face and knocking them out and doing all these tremendously physically strong things. It's kind of a weird thing to watch.
Mm-hmm. You know what's interesting? Like, I'm looking at the guy's icon, and he's got a done-up G37 something or another sedan here, tucked on with some BBS LMs slammed on those wheels, and that's a tight-looking car. It's put together real well. If you take that same approach with your mom, right? Because she's probably driving a rusted-ass Honda Civic, I bet. She's not driving something that nice. That's not her car. That's your car, I'm guessing. Or that's a car that you aspire to have. Okay, that's the move of an alpha. Stop calling your mommy an alpha. Like, you have to cut that tie, right? You got to be able to put your foot down and say, I'm the man, right? I'm driving the man's ride. That's the way that it goes.
Exactly.
All right.
Grab them nuts.
Lift up your skirt and grab your nuts, right? Alex, let's do this one super chat, and then we'll get to Aaron. He's waiting here. So Alex says, I'm 24, start college, AAS, network admin. Good move. What's AAS? I've never heard of that. Do you guys know what that is?
No.
Here, dude, I'm going to Google it for you just because, you threw the super chat. What is AAS? AAS, atomic absorption spectroscopy.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
Yes, do that. That sounds like engineering. I don't know, man. If you want to spell it out for me.
If it's a subset of STEM, then it's probably worth college. Otherwise, no.
Yeah. Aaron, what's shaking, man? You got a question?
Hey, how's it going, Rich?
Experience? Yeah, hey, man.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share an experience real fast. Like that last guy was saying, his mom was using money to kind of manipulate him and control him. So embarrassing enough for me. I actually filed taxes on my own for the first time last year when I was 24.
Okay.
And so when I'm going to college, I basically was able to pay for everything myself, but I needed another like $1,500 to $2,000 a semester that my mom was willing to pay. And so she said, well, if I'm going to help you out in college, I want to see what you're spending money on. And so it seemed like a reasonable thing to agree to at the time. And so I got into grad school, and the assistantship for grad school completely covered everything. And then on top of that, I'm making, like, depending on what accounts they pull out of for the department, $4,500 to $5,000 after everything's paid for per semester. And so I closed the account that she and I shared together, and I opened my own account. So I said, well, you're not paying for anything anymore, so there's no reason to have you on it anymore. And I did my own taxes, and she was furious. She was so mad. And so she tried to get me to come back, and she said, well, if you do that, I'm kicking you off health insurance. I'm not paying for your cell phone anymore, and I'm not paying your car insurance. And so I said, okay. And so I got my own cell phone on a different plan with a different carrier, And I started paying my own car insurance because she actually canceled my car insurance. She followed through on that promise. But she was so mad. She was so angry that I got a different phone because there's 4 people in my family. And I guess it messed up our family plan that I went somewhere else and I canceled my line. And so now she's actually paying like $20 a month more as a result. But it's absolutely nuts. And I was identifying with what Joe was saying before, that like I had never realized this actually, Rich, until I started listening to your shows. I was like, yeah, I think I'm getting taken for a ride here, you know. And it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Let me just share this share the soundbite with you because I use this more often on my one-on-one coaching calls. Usually guys that are trying to save their relationships or at least try to gain frame of the relationship. And I mean, a lot of guys even deal with this too when they get divorced, where they have their ex-wives just bothering them all the time to like do stuff that they shouldn't be doing anymore. And it's quite simply, I don't work for you anymore. Okay. And I'm not saying that, you know, you ever worked for her in the past, but if you have your mindset structured around the notion that, look, I don't work for you anymore. It's like an old employer sending you a text message and saying, hey, Aaron, I need you to come over and do this, that, and the other thing in the warehouse, or move this around, or take care of this accounting ledger for me. It's like, dude, you're not paying me. I don't work for you anymore. You're an adult. You're not under the roof anymore. You don't have to do anything that they tell you to do anymore, right? Like those days are over. And that's what the whole episode's about, is cutting ties with mommy, or cutting the umbilical cord. I think you got to cut it twice in life as a man. You got to cut it, obviously, you know, when you're born. You also got to cut it when you're an adult, right? Like when you come of age. And, you know, the whole, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to take you off that, or I'm going to charge you more, or you have to show me this. It's like, I would just treat it with the same way that we treat women that are stepping out of line too often, with a soft next. You know, if they're going to misbehave, give her a soft next, right? Let her talk to your voicemail, right? Let her send you that email and you don't respond to it because you're busy doing your thing, right? She needs to get the message that you're not a child anymore and that you do not report to her in certain areas of life. I mean, if you want to report to her, then, you know, talk to her about, hey, what's happening for Christmas and who's bringing what and who's buying what gifts and stuff like that. You can have conversations around that. But when she's trying to run your life, dude, you're a grown ass. I mean, would you let a woman do that to you that you're in a relationship with?
No. And actually my girlfriend was doing some stuff that was irritating me, and I kind of just told her like, hey, you need to cut the crap out. And so she did. She actually listened, and it was remarkable. But it never worked before. You know, my mom is an incredibly domineering person. And so like this whole experience, actually, this happened within the last year. This happened just last year, 2019.
Was she running your dad when you were growing up?
Oh, hell yeah. So my dad actually, my parents got divorced when I was 8 turning 9.
Yeah.
And so I actually had a conversation with my dad. And so I asked him why he left, because basically, I guess CPS ordered him out of the house. He had an anger problem. He definitely hit us kids. And like, that's factual. But then I guess my parents went to marriage counseling, and my dad just called it quits. He's like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Your mom's just doing 50 different things. And so I asked him one time, I said, well, Dad, why'd you leave? And without even thinking, this is 10 years later, he rattles off 17 different things. And all 17 of those things, with the exception of use sex as a weapon, she's done to me. And I was like, oh, I completely understand. Like, I completely understand why my dad left, because the stuff that my mom did to him, he did to me. You know, like when women get divorced, all of a sudden the son becomes like the father by proxy, or the husband by proxy, but it doesn't work the same way for like the daughters and dads. It's a weird dynamic, but you know, that whole thing happened. And but yeah, it's not enough to just say no. You also have to do no. And I get that now. That's the
firmware that she operates with, right? I mean, you know, you saw her operate with it on your dad. She probably operates it with, I mean, if she's got guys in her, or a guy in her life today, she probably tries to pull the same crap on them. So it's up to you to put your foot down and set that boundary. And no, it's not happening, man.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely get that now. But yeah, I just wanted to share that experience.
It's like, look, I'm your son. I'm not your bitch.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what do you guys think? Do you guys want to add to that?
I think where you want to get to with your mom is in a calm, cool, adult, high functioning relationship. And it gets tricky when you have a mom and that you surpass her ability to function. So you say your mom is domineering. That suggests to me that her ability to relate to other humans is not quite what it could be. And so you're going through life and you're improving and you're getting better. And at some point you become more skilled at relating to other human beings than she does. And so you're setting the terms and what you're going to accept from her. In her defense, that's a really tough thing because number one, she's always going to see you as that kid in the diaper. And number two, it's a hard thing for her to let go of that old relationship. And so I'm advocating, I guess, here for bringing a lot of calmness. Obviously you do not back off your boundaries. She's overstepping the boundaries, and I'm with Rich 100% on that. But I think you also bring a lot of calmness to her, and you demonstrate to her what it is, the behavior that you expect from her. And she's still going to see you as that little kid, but you still keep demonstrating that behavior until you get fed up with it, and then you're done for a while.
Definitely.
And I'm an advocate for also giving people a break to think about it. I don't think you cut off your parents in a fast and loose fashion. I think you can.
Yeah, let's put a soft nexus. You basically give them a break to think about what they've been doing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think something interesting is coming out of this is talking about how you and your father's relation. How would you put it? You and your father's experience with your mom are so similar. It reminded me of something I think I forgot to write down, but something I thought was really important is that idea of AWOLT. All women are like that, in that a lot of people, when they pedestalize their mom or their female authority, they're like separated that. This happened actually on Rolo's show in the chat I was moderating on Sunday, where a guy said, "Oh, I hate all women, but I love my mom and my sister." And I was like, okay, you're dumb on 2 points right now. Hey, the fact that you're hating all women, like that's kind of a personal problem. You need to get over that, that black pill life. And secondly, you think your mom and your sister are excused from that, right? That's not how that works. Like, this is a newsflash for a lot of people, but your mom had sex. That's a thing. She was dating, she was relational, she had all of those things. And like, it's one of those things where like people try to like angelize and like separate the mom as like, oh, she's not a female, right? A mom's a mom. And they don't really realize like, no, she's a female. You know what I mean? It's that disconnect. And like, I just think it's interesting that you and your dad were saying, oh, we had the exact same experiences with my mom. Like, to me, that's a huge red pill slap for a lot of guys, is realizing your mom is a woman, right? Yeah. Your mom is not an angel from heaven or even a demon, right? Your mom is a woman, right?
Every guy out there can do himself a favor and don't idealize anybody, male or female. They're all humans. They all do what humans do.
Even Tom,
definitely
space magic.
Yeah.
But Aaron, I don't get the sense that you're idealizing your mom in this moment. So good job on that.
Well, I'm not. I promise. Like, I've learned so much from watching you guys. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm messing up here. I didn't do this here. Like, so I'm actually applying to PhD programs. I'm an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineering student. So I'm applying to PhD programs right now. And my mom offered to pay for the application fees, and I flat out told her no. I was like, no, I got it. I'll take care of it.
Don't give her anything that she can use against you in a future date.
Exactly. And that was my thought. I was like, yeah, no, don't take the bait. So
it's just not worth it, man, because you've already seen how she's going to leverage that. So you're doing the right thing. I mean, at least you're learning from that experience. You're learning from your father's experience too. So go forth and be a force of awesomeness and do your thing, dude.
Definitely. Thank you, guys.
All right, Aaron. All right. Let me just quickly get to Das's second part here. The super chat. He says Associates of Applied Science, AAS, Associates of Applied Science, and his first point was 24, start college, network admin, good move. Again, dude, like that's kind of a question you want to call in on, man, to get a little more frame around it. But I don't know. Do you guys have any feedback on that? I mean, this sounds like it's more of an American degree. I'm 24, starting college, AAS, network admin, good move, was his question. And AAS stands for Associates of Applied Science. I'm not familiar with that.
I'm not
better than gender studies.
It's definitely better than gender studies and basket weaving. So
I'll think about what I said. If it's a subset of STEM, it's usually worth it. If you know your income range afterwards, can pay off those bills, then sure. But,
and if you can knock that out in 2 years, heck yeah. But
Alex,
like you say, there's a lot of other variables to consider.
Hey Alex, guys, how y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
Hey man, doing well, guys. I wanted to give some little insight here. What's going on with my personal situation is 24, just finished up the MBA program in the States, working for a mutual fund company, living out in a pretty high expense city. So my mom is helping me a little bit with my rent. I just lived with her my whole life. Dad's kind of out of the picture. Wanted to get some insight if any of you guys had kind of a similar situation, or maybe had a kind of, I'm kind of trying to cut the cord with her, but it's just to the point where it's so expensive to live, and still trying to keep a positive connection with her. But she just in the past has had total BPD symptoms. She would just go off on me, like when I would come home for college breaks, you're just like your father, and you're just so insensitive, and, just tantrums, so to speak. But since moving out and she's helping me with rent, totally everything's, she doesn't blow up. She'll reach out a lot more. She's like, hey, how are you doing, son? And stuff. Just total changes pace and kind of mindset. With her being a single parent, like my parents are a lot older, and I'm, just finishing up school, and both of them are kind of putting pressure, who's going to take care of them. My dad's out of the picture, but he still will communicate with me kind of on a yearly basis. I know that's a lot of information for you guys, but maybe just if you had some couple points you could kind of wrap up with me here at the end of the show.
I got a couple thoughts here. Alex, have you read the book Stop Walking on Eggshells?
I have not. I'm going to write down the title though.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because there's an outburst coming at some point, and this is a book about living with borderline people, and it's an excellent guide for helping you maintain rules and regulations with them, basically.
Right. Okay. Stop walking on eggshells. Yeah. Because in my whole life, like I would go home from college, I was working a job where in school, I get paid for my housing and meal plan, so I didn't have to depend on my parents as much, or on my mom. And she really was didn't have as much control over me, so I would come home over breaks, and she would just lash out. Jason, I'm currently working with Vanguard, just kind of starting out, trying to just make my own dent in the universe, but also trying to just see what I want to do and stuff like that. But it's so expensive to live and everything. So she still helps me out with my rent. So she kind of has that tie over me, so sometimes she'll outburst, like she'll communicate with me over a text message and she's fine. But if we speak on the phone, she's like yelling, you know what I mean? Just crazy.
Is this a CFA or a CPA?
CFA, chartered financial analyst.
Okay. How many more years you got?
Well, I just started with the company. I finished my MBA in December and have been with the company since July. So just really just starting out and still trying to get on my own 2 feet.
Mm-hmm. So when do you think you'll be on your own 2 feet? Like when will you be able to cut the umbilical cord from mommy?
I really think it'd be like at least a year in job is usually what they quote. Mm-hmm. So, at least a year. So that would be July of 2020. So.
Are they not paying you right now? Or are you on like a...
No. They do pay. It's just that like just starting out, getting out of college, like I'm still studying for a lot of certifications and exam licensing. Mm-hmm. So they pay like less than when the real role begins, so to speak.
Where do you live? Like, do you live with roommates? Do you live by yourself?
I live by myself. My rent's about $1,300 in Charlotte, North Carolina. So. And
what do they pay you monthly?
They pay probably about $2,400 monthly right now.
So what are your expenses after the rent? Like, why do you need your mom's money?
She helps because I have student loans from before I had that job. Like I pay about $300 a month in student loans, and then I pay for all my, my internet, utilities, all the other.
What do you owe in student loans in total?
Probably about $17,000.
Okay. Well, I mean, like you'll be out of this hole in not very long.
Yeah. The company also assists where they pay $100, but I try to just use that to pay, towards the principal, and I pay the full payment and everything. So,
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, and Sean touched on it a bit, but like, if your mother, you said she had BPD tendencies, or is she actually diagnosed?
Oh, certainly. Yeah, she's never been diagnosed because, like, when in middle school, like, I got in trouble for something, and we went to a psychologist because she's like, you need psychology, and they kind of did a one-on-one with us, and then at the end, they talked to my mom and then brought me back. They're like, well, we told her that she needs to calm down. And of course, we never went back to that psychologist. So
yeah, I'm just saying, if that is true, the monthly payment she's giving to you will eventually turn into a hand grenade to use against you. So
yeah,
the more you accept those, the more she's going to have leverage over you. And if something doesn't go her way, like, and it goes back to walking on eggshells, right? if you don't want to live that life, then you shouldn't be accepting from her.
Yeah.
You know.
And I feel like that's going to get to the point where I'm going to tell her, hey, Mom, I'm fine, and she's going to be like, well, are you never going to take care of me one day? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's going to just.
If you already know her script, then that's probably a constant pattern, right?
How much of your rent is she paying? Did you say it was $300 a month?
Yeah, she pays $350 a month.
Dude, I would, if it was me, I would not take the $350 and just
would sell some couches on Craigslist, right?
Yeah, go donate some blood, or work in a bar maybe on a weekend, like one night a week or something like that.
Buy ramen for a year.
Yeah, or eat KD, whatever. I mean, I ate kind of shit when I was in my 20s, that age too. Like, we're all kind of broke at one point. So if you don't want to put up with what she's throwing at you, I mean, you can cut her off completely and just live your own life, make your own choices. I mean, the problem when you take money from your parents in your 20s, they're always going to try to manipulate, coerce, or influence your life to some degree, because they feel like they're owed some extra, I don't know, that extra pound of meat from you. So it's up to you, man. Like, it's a price that you pay. If you're going to keep putting your hand out and taking the money, she's going to keep throwing this crap at you, and you're going to have to keep listening to it. It's not like you can tell her to pound sand or just F off if she's giving you money, because that's when the money's going to dry up. So you got to figure out for yourself how you want to handle this. Sean, man, you've been quiet on this one. What do you think?
No, there's nothing I disagree with her, that you know what's coming. You know what her script is and what she's going to do at some point, and you'll be in a much better position to handle that if you are not indebted to her in any way.
I would pay $300 a month not to deal with a PPD mom. not take her money and then deal with her crap.
Yeah.
I guess my real fear is, like, at some point, like, I know that it's going to, I want to, like, tell her, like, hey, Mama, I'm doing fine. And she's going to be like, well, are you ever going to, like, take care of me like I took care of you? And I just, like, am not ready for that conversation.
Read the book. It'll help with that kind of conversation.
Okay. Yeah, definitely great recommendation there, guys. I appreciate you guys taking me on here at the end of the show.
Thanks, Alex. See you. All right, let's hit this. We got a whopper of a super chat here from Kuda. Coulda, shoulda, woulda for the $100 Canadian. Thanks, man. I'm new to the club, divorced once and won, leveled up, and I'm going into separation now. She moved her friends in without asking, and a month later told me to leave 4 times. So I found a place, and I spent a month having more sex than we have had in more than 2 years. All right, let's just. I think that deserves a little bit of a clap, but I'm not sure if there's a question there. It seems like it's more of a share, but it's
$100 share.
it's $100 share. Yes, thank
victory
you.
Lap.
Victory lap. Good. We're close to wrapping this one up, man. This is getting close to the 90-minute mark. So let's do a little bit of housekeeping. Let me just talk about a few things here, and I'll let you guys kind of chime in on what you got going on. I always got to pay the bills, so let me talk about the channel sponsor. Of course, it's Grondike Soap. There we go. Grondike Soap Company, tactical soap and beard oil. It's pheromone infused. There is a link that's going to be pinned in the top description, or you can just go to coopersoap.com. If you check out with coupon code with the link when I have it down there, you get 10% off, or just go straight to coopersoap.com. It's already pre-applied. So there's that. Conk, you're going to be coming out to the Rule Zero live event in Vegas in April. We've got a bunch of other people coming. I think I've sold at least 60% of my ticket allotment. So if you guys are interested in coming, it's available to community members only. We announced it on Rule Zero on Saturday. We're doing it this way because it's our first stab at it. Not really sure what to expect. We've never arranged a workshop in person. So it's myself, Rollo Tomasi, Ryan Stone, Troy Francis, and of course, John from Modern Life Data. He's in the chat right now. Rich, tell them I sold out first. Well, John's a very competitive lad these days. He sold out all his tickets. So I'll get you a hero cookie, John, when I see you. I'll hook you up with that. So you're good. But I've sold out about 60% of mine, and I know there's a few others that still have a few tickets left. But if you want to come, it's $500 for the day. It's a day-long workshop. There's going to be some outside stuff that goes on around that as well, with some drinks and meals and gambling and stuff like that. So it's not just the day-long event. And if you want to get in, let me grab you the link to my community, because it's community members only. You got to join in, and there's my link. So hop into the membership. It's on the events tab when you get in. if you're already a member of my community, just go to the events tab on the Facebook page. All the perks are there. So if you click that link and watch the video, it explains exactly how it all works and what the perks are. Sean, what are you up to the next couple of weeks? Do you have any videos coming out that you're dropping?
No, I got nothing going on right now. I guess I'll do some macaroni art and spray paint it gold and show it to you next time.
All right. So,
but we got an interesting show coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, we have an interesting show. Follow Sean on Twitter. He's at Iron Shrink. And if you're not already aware, because you're newer to the series, Tactical Guide to Women is a great book. Sean wrote this a couple of years ago. I think he gave me this copy about 2 years ago now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, great book. It comes from your practice, from your own experience, and you're basically trying to help guys choose wisely when it comes to making better choices with the women that they let into their life, because the right ones can, accelerate. If you pick the wrong one, they can definitely make a train wreck out of it. Conk, what are you up to this next week? Is there anything you want to tell these guys that you're up to?
Living life. This is a little subset thing from Rich's group, but for my channel, I only got one video, but we have an idea of. So in Rich's 1% group, we have a subgroup for religion in the red pill.
Yeah, original.
And I've been talking with those guys, and we might start doing some live Q&As on my channel through that group. So if you do join Rich's community, you can talk to me about religion, red pill stuff through there. We can put it up there. You can throw me questions there. So it's just another way to get a hold of me. Otherwise, my email is vanguardconk@gmail.com. I'm willing to take a bunch of people. I got a couple interviews lined up for my channel, actually. Nice. With some other content creators. So do you
want to drop your channel in the chat just so they can check it out? I know you got one video of milk and meat. It was a good one. Oh, grab some merch, guys. I got these mugs that are on the tab there. Just a quick reminder. There's a few more of them like that in that series. Grab one if you want. Next episode we got in 2 weeks, and we have that military guy, right, Sean? What was his shtick again?
Well, you and I have noticed a pattern of guys that are super high functioning military guys. They should be super high functioning at home, right? But they get zeroed out,
right? Or
they're completely dominated by women at home. And so I met this really interesting dude, Scott Klagic. He was for 10 years, he was a psychologist in the U.S. Army. He retired a major, and he's in private practice now. And he's got some really interesting thoughts about the particular challenges that men face with romance in the military. So whether you're military or not, this is going to be a really interesting conversation.
Yeah, that'll be on March 2nd.
I think so, yeah.
March 2nd, 8 p.m. So if you're a military guy, you got all the bad guys, you kill the bad guys, you dodge the bullets, you came back from tour, but you're getting run by your woman or women, this will be a good one for you.
Or if you got somebody that you love that's a military guy.
Yeah. So come ready with questions. I mean, if you can't make it live and you want to throw us a question, you can always hit us up on Twitter or send us an email. You should be able to find us quite easily on the links that we have dropped everywhere. All right, guys. We'll see you in the next broadcast. Conk, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Conk.
Gentlemen, cut that umbilical cord. You got to do it twice in life. The second time, it's on you. First time, you don't have any
as a man.
Yeah. All right.